Welcome! Today we are talking about statistics here in your Algebra 1 course, and we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, box plots. So a box plot, or you might have heard it called a box and whisker plot, is a graphical representation of a data set that shows a lot of cool things. So it can show us the median, these things called quartiles, which we'll talk about in a second. They're kind of like mini medians, minimum, and maximum values. So a lot of information in this one picture. Box plots help us to visualize the spread and the center of the data. So remember, measures of central tendency, the middle of the data, are things like the median, the average. And so when I say center, those are the two, the mean and the median, that we really are thinking of here. The spread is kind of like the range of the or not kind of, range is a measure of spread. But it is tells us how far apart or spread out the data are from one another. All right, so the box of a box and whisker plot shows the middle 50% of the scores. So the middle 50% of the data is contained or represented with the box, and the whiskers show us they reach out to minimum and maximum values, and they show us the lower and upper 25%, right? Right, so the left whisker is that bottom 25%, and the right whisker is the top 25%. All right, so what are we doing here? What are our steps for creating a box plot? So first, we're going to order the data from smallest to largest. Then we're going to find the median. This is the second quartile, or Q2, because it divides our data in half, right? Into a top half and a bottom half. And the quartiles, right, divvy our data up into, you guessed it, 4 sections. All right. So then we'll find Q1, which is the median of the lower half of the data, and Q3, which is the median of the upper half of the data. Now, a little note here, if n, the number of pieces of information in your data set, is odd, that means that number is the actual median. You didn't have to find like the average of the middle two. Don't include the median when you're finding Q1 and Q3. All right, so we'll see an example of kind of both of those situations in examples. All right, then we're going to number our number line to include the range of our data, right? So maybe we're working with really small numbers, maybe we're working with really big numbers. All right, then we're going to plot the 5-number summary, which those are our minimum, Q1, median, Q3, maximum values. And we'll draw a box, the lines at the quartiles, so all 3 of them. And we're going to draw whiskers from the box to the minimum and maximum values. All right, so I'm going to create a box plot with you. with some data here. So, very creative data set, I know. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. All right, so we're going to find the median. Now, when I'm doing this by hand, I still, even as a math teacher, my math degree kind of like tick off until I get to the middle. So the middle here is 8, smack dab in the middle of our set. Oh my goodness, scribble erase, what are you doing here? All right, so that makes 8 the median. So go ahead and write that in here. Now I'm going to look at the what's to the left, right? That kind of lower portion, and what's to the right, the upper portion, and I'm going to find the median of those values. So in this case, I'll be 4 and 12. So that makes 4 Q1 and 12 Q3. And then my minimum and maximum values are just the smallest and largest in the set. All right, so since we need to fit a decent amount in here, let's try counting by ones here. So we'll go, we'll count by twos. We can do that. So we'll go 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. All right. So how this works is I'm going to start by plotting where all these points are. I'm going to put a little dot to kind of remind me where these guys are. So the middle ones get a line like so. This is what becomes our box. So we connect Q1 and Q3. Those are the edges of our box. And our median here, so remember, I'm going to label them this first time. So that's our median. This one right here is Q3. And this one right here is Q1. And then we're going to draw from there out to 2 and out to 14. Our minimum and maximum values are whiskers. There you have it. This is our box plot. So again, this, just to be consistent, this is our maximum. This is our minimum. All right, so let's do another one. So again, being really kind, I'm giving you to order data. All right, so go ahead, see if you can find the median of these data. All right, so you might have noticed we have an even number of data here. So wow, on this last one, 8 was the middle, right? So I didn't include it. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Since we had an odd amount of pieces of data, we excluded 8. But now, see, there's 4 values to the left of my little line that I drew and 4 values to the right. So if you'll remember, we find an average of 14 and 15, which will be 14.5. That'll be our median. And so that means that we do actually include 14 and 15 then when we're trying to find our quartiles. All right, but again, right, we have even number on either side, so we'll have to take the average of 9 and 12 and the average of 18 and 20 to find Q1 and Q3. So those will be 10.5 and 19. All right, so why don't you go ahead and label those minimum values and maximum values. All right, yeah, our minimum here is 7 and our maximum is 23. So our data here is more spread out. Right here we went from 2 to 14, but here we're going from 7 to 23. So we just have a little bit of a bigger spread here. All right, so plot these. I mean, again, count by twos because we have kind of a small number line and a varied set of data. So we'll go 6, 8, 10, 12. All right, so we're going to at about 10 and a half. We've got a line. About 14 and a half. We've got a line. 19. All right, and those are our boxes. They're not, or this forms our box. All right, then we're gonna have our minimum at 7. We'll connect that to the box. It's our whisker, and our maximum at 23. Connect that as well. You'll notice this is fairly symmetrical here. Right, the difference between, say, our median in Q1 and our median in Q3, fairly consistent. Q1 and our minimum, Q3 and our maximum, pretty consistent distance. All right. Go ahead and see if you can create a box plot for these data here. So go ahead on your own, figure out the 5-number summary. You can do it. Yep, just pause the video. You got it. Again, I've given you ordered data, so you're good to go there. All right, so hopefully you actually paused the video. Our minimum was 3, Q1 was 7, Q2 was 12, Q3 was 17, and our maximum was 22. All right, we have another fairly even looking box plot here. So I am going to, though, just label counting by threes. All right, so now I always start with my box. So we got 7, 12, and 17. Connector box. All right, now for our whiskers. Maximum at 22. Our minimum at 3. And there you have it. How'd you do on that one? Did you get everything? All right. So finally, a bit of a skew here, so we can kind of see the shape. If we were to think of maybe a histogram, or similar shape, maybe like a dot plot of these data, you would see a shape like this. Whoa! Apple Pencil did me dirty there. Kind of like this. With a skew where we can see the bulk of the data are here, and then there's not much going on this side. So that is quite interesting. We can get a feel, right, for that shape. We know from this, the fact that this is our median, which we'll get to. That's the first question. But the center, right, is pretty far from that maximum value. All right, so our median value looks like it's 4. The percent of data that falls in between Q1 and Q3, right, the box, that is 50%. So 50% of these data lie within that box. All right, which part of the data is most spread out, right? That would be this upper 50%, right? All right, and then are there any possible outliers? We haven't quite talked about the rule for figuring out if something is an outlier, but we can be fairly certain, right, that the maximum value is far, right, from the box. And likely an outlier, right? Because it just appears to be so far away from all of the other data going on here. All right, everyone. That was our introduction to Boxplots and the 5-number summary. I hope that you had a great time. And stats can be so wonderful. So don't quit on me just yet.